is nothing more than feedback about your proximity to your vortex. So when you feel really ornery, you're vibrationally speaking not near your vortex. When you feel hopeful, you're right on the brink of it. In fact, this door to the vortex, this imaginary door in Abraham's fairy tale of the vortex, this vibrational entry point is somewhere between hope and belief. So when you feel hopeful about something, you're so in the vicinity that you'll be called in, you'll be swept in. Law of attraction will take you in. Law of attraction will take you in when there is not enough resistance to hold you out. How's that? If you weren't doing that thing you do that holds you apart from your vortex would take you in every time. When you slumber, in you go. But you wake up right where you were when you went in. If you go to sleep in the vortex, you wake up in the vortex. If you go to sleep not in the vortex, you wake up not in the vortex. Have you ever had an experience where you're ornery when you go to sleep? You sleep all night, you sleep pretty good, you wake up, still ornery. So the vortex is the source of well-being, calling you home, so to speak, calling you to all that you've created. And when you are not clinging with resistance to some thought that keeps you from it, it takes you right in. So really, when we say we want you to get into the vortex, what we really mean, a much more accurate way of saying it is, we want you to stop doing that thing you do that keeps the vortex from taking you in easily. Oh, you're going, you're just not going willingly sometimes. In other words, when you croak, in you go.
All right. So that's a good segue, a great way to build for the rest of the sharing with you today. Okay? Would you say that that's a great way to build in terms of getting on the vortex for this month's focus and for the sharing that I've already done in Rebirth Woman, explaining what this month is going to, not just this month, actually the next 6 months, what we have ahead of us and how to prepare and how to make sure that you find yourself on the side of being grounded, focused, and undisturbed during this time in this season. Finding your way to be undisturbed but focused. And for some people, that may seem like a far reach, but not for you. Not for you who are masterminding. Not for you who are building one principle, one discipleship on top of another. Not for you. And here's why. I'm going to share a little bit more data with you, just to so bear with me, because I want to get this in for you to be able to understand a few concepts and a few things as it relates to manifesting your vision, right? I want to ask you a few questions, right? What would you do if you weren't afraid to? Let's say there's something in terms of dating. If you weren't afraid, is there a person, an object of your desire that you would seek, that you would go for? What would you do if you weren't afraid to pick up the phone and tell a client that you're not happy with how they're treating you? What would you do if you weren't afraid to tell your worst enemy that you love them? Now that's a switch. I know a lot of us wasn't ready for that one. What would you do if you weren't afraid to take a chance? What would you do if you weren't afraid to apologize? That's a big thing in culture right now. What would you do if you weren't afraid to do things differently? And what would you do if you weren't afraid to tell the truth? Fear is also an acronym for forgetting everything's all right. In other words, we get focused on the outer distractions, right? But I want to go even further than that. Okay, let's keep on digging into this energy that we are going to be working with when we talk about effortless manifestation, right? Because right now, everything in the atmosphere feels heavy. Everything in the atmosphere feels heavy. So it's really easy to feel burdened, even if you're not. There are some people who are feeling guilty or made to feel guilty because they're not struggling during this time, or they're not on the struggle train. And it doesn't mean that any of us are exempt. There's a scripture that says, therefore the grace of God go I. So we don't take anything for granted. But when we talk about the energy, the mindset that we are focusing on this month, there's a few other things that I want to put in your ear gate for you to consider before we even move into more of the breakdown of the weeks. Make sure this month, you have your journal as well. We'll come back to altitude week, but there's something I wanted to share with you, and it's hiding from me. So hold on. I got to go. Okay, here we go. First of all, the premise that we are working with today is a reminder for most of you that we are vibratory beings. We are vibrational creatures. And sometimes we just forget. We forget that we are vibrational beings. We forget that we are in a vibrational universe. And so we forget the power that goes with our vibration. This is why when I'm talking, a lot of times I'm speaking to the things that we lean on for our information. If you keep on leaning on certain things for your information, no matter what institution it comes from or corporate entity, then oftentimes there's a form of spiritual laziness that happens. And that laziness translates into all of the things that we're looking to manifest for ourselves. So the idea that there's a cosmic power in the simple act of feeling good is foreign to a lot of people. This is why when I'm teaching on pleasure, a lot of times people they find it hard to believe that pleasure can actually heal, that pleasure can actually transform, that pleasure can take you from just going to the altar or going and trying to fix it with your intellect to a place of opening the same way, but without the struggle. Okay, so I'm not going into pleasure right now, but feeling good is a spiritual principle. And feeling good is the result of a lot of times what we're thinking, okay? And so there's a few things that come along with understanding this power. You can have all the money you want or need and don't need a particular talent or sellable skill to acquire it. I know that, and I'm going to throw scriptures out there. I'm going to throw things from A Course in Miracles. I'm going to reference things sometimes. And it's your job to study and show yourself approved when you hear it, right? You have resources in your module. You have resources in our mastermind space. And the question is, are you using them? Because the thing is, this is how you become your own physician, your inner physician. You become your own guru. Why? Because you are choosing the course of study. You're choosing what it is that you are programming into your mind, into your spirit. And it's not, even when it comes to spirituality, when it comes to mindset, entrepreneurship, manifesting a relationship, having a baby, when it comes to mending friendships, building your vision from ground zero into something that you can physically touch and experience. These principles are not limited to the object of your desire. And once you learn these principles that we're teaching every month, you have to also shift a little bit of earning your feel good, so to speak. What I want you to learn in this mastermind space is how to choose it for yourself. And, with working on Fix My Life, right? It's a quagmire sometimes, because one of the things that we were taught as coaches is that we don't fix anything for you, and because you're not broken. But fix is something that we understand in our life oftentimes when we're not getting what we want or we're not getting the results that we want. But what you get to understand through a deeper study, through a regular practice, through a tribe, through the practices, the tools, the principles that we're working on, is that you can experience the energy of solving almost anything with just as little as 15 minutes a day of practice. 15 minutes a day, little. Now, when you go into your own self-mastery, it requires more. You have to extend your practice. And so, many of us are not really focused on the math, the spiritual mathematics. What we're focused on is what is this going to get me? What is it going to get me? And there's a certain point where the ego has to be eliminated in your, not eliminated. Let me choose that word different. You have to give your ego something else to do. Okay? You have to give your ego something else to do. Okay? So many of us have heard that we create our lives. And for some people that's new. For that's hard to believe because we've been taught and programmed that we need to rely on the pastor. And so and that comes from depending on what your childhood upbringing is. And then what your relationship in that childhood is with authority. And then most of us rarely grow up in our mind's eye, in our consciousness, right? And so we still are looking for something outside to guide us when you know there's a word that says that success leaves clues. Let me just say that again. Success leaves clues. And so we can't get mad when we go and we try to manifest the formula that someone else gave you because if you're just doing it from the intellect and there's no connection between your heart and your spirit, then oftentimes you're going to say it doesn't work. And that's not true, that it doesn't work. It may not be working for you. And so one of the things that Abraham Hicks said in that clip was vibrational alignment. Okay? Vibrational alignment. Okay. So, what we get to understand is right now, everybody is in their feelings. Everybody is in their feelings for one reason or another in a global pandemic, in a political year. There's race consciousness that's happening on the planet, race baiting that's happening on the planet. Everybody's in their feelings. So how do you get out? I hope somebody's asking that question. How do you just get out of your feelings? Because there's enough that's intended to program you to get into your feelings. But I say this to you all the time. When you allow other people to have access to just emotionally take you on these different trips, even in the name of something good, even in the name of politics, and many people who are using the ancestors to even evoke the spirit of guilt around voting, even in all of that, how do you determine, I choose not to feel this today? Or I choose to feel the other thing today. Okay? How is it that we choose what it is that we are vibing and what we are aligning with? Okay? How are we doing that? It's not just some hocus pocus positive. Oh, I'm just going to stay positive. No, there's an emptying out process and a filling in. Most of us don't want to do the emptying out process because there's a little bit of detachment that you have to what it is that you believe was the right way of thinking, the right way of doing it, or God's way, or the way your mama told you, or trying not to get in trouble, or just trying to secure the bag. So there's sometimes we have to empty all of that out in order to be able to fill it in with something that we can use. In other words, like, how many of you drink juice? Of course, me, Mama Juicy, is going to talk about juice. But there's a difference when you buy the orange juice, for instance, on the market versus when you go and take some oranges and put them in a juicer and press the and do the whole thing. Some people take out the seeds. I didn't know you were supposed to take out the seeds. For years when I was juicing, I just cut it and did the whole thing. Lately, they're saying take out the seeds, but there's a different experience of that juice. It's almost like a dreamsicle if you get a good orange, and it's so frothy and so creamy. But when you go into the store and you get something that has been commercially processed, some of us have been commercially processed. Some of us are still having a colonized mind and a colonized thinking. Some of us are trying to rationalize with the colonized mind, the commercial thinking, the pasteurization part of our spiritual juice, our sacred juice in our mindset. And we have not been able to go and take the fruit of our spirit and press it. Sometimes you got to press the fruit of your spirit to get the nutrients out that you need to have the zeal, to have the enthusiasm, to choose your emotion, to choose how you feel. Even when the whole world is feeling one thing doesn't mean that you have to get on the bandwagon of what everybody else is feeling. You can still be sensitive to it. You can still have empathy for it. But when you have decided that you are rising to the occasion to become the priestess of your own household, when you have decided that you are rising to the occasion to be able to program your reality, create your reality, doesn't mean that you're going to get it perfect, that you just say be and it is all the time. Absolutely not. But when you practice, you become better and better at it. So now let's talk about this secret sauce that I want to give to you today in the practice of this discipleship for sacred juice. If you've been watching and getting a sample online on IG, thanks for having a little fun with us on Sunday morning. I'm getting ready to go in for those who are in this space. You got to join us here. Check out the link in my video.